All right. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar on the move, transportation, partnerships, and urban student experiences. My name is Jimmy McClellan. I'm the Associate Director here at the Coalition of Urban Serving Universities, or as we like to call it, USU. And I'm thrilled to have you all with us for this timely conversation and important conversation. For those of you who may be new to USU or not as familiar with our work, the Coalition of Urban Serving Universities is a network of public urban research universities committed to advancing student success, community engagement, and inclusive innovation. We work closely with our member institutions of now, there are about 40 of those across the country to elevate the unique challenges and opportunities that come with serving urban populations and urban students. One of the ways that we've expanded our perspective is through the USU Advisory Council, which includes representatives from non-higher education organizations that have a footprint here in Washington, D.C., where we're based. These partners bring valuable insights from sectors like transportation, housing, workforce development, food security, and more. And that's why we're here today. Today's session is a great example of how cross-sector collaboration can illuminate new strategies for supporting students. It's also a timely case study for one city in particular, Philadelphia, in Pennsylvania, as we prepare to gather there next week for our APLU annual meeting. We're excited to spotlight the work happening in Philadelphia and beyond, and to hear from our panelists about what's working, where challenges remain, and how we can build stronger university community partnerships. So with that, I will turn it over to our moderator for today's session, Ryan Russo, the Executive Director of NACTO and a member of our USU Advisory Council, to kick off the discussion. So thank you, Ryan.
Thank you, Jimmy, and hello, everyone. I'm Ryan Russo. I'm Executive Director of NACTO, which stands for the National Association of City Transportation Officials, and NACTO is a member of the USU Advisory Council. At NACTO, we work with over 100 city transportation agencies across North America, including cities where the university campus is the city. And that's certainly the case in Philadelphia. This means transportation isn't really a side issue. Transportation shapes who can attend school, who can persist, and who can participate in full life of the university. Housing is getting, and rightly getting, a ton of attention, especially in cities where rents are rising fast and we have a national housing crisis. But next to housing, the biggest household cost for many students is transportation. How you get to campus, to work, to childcare, to community. This is real money, and not just money, but also time in your life, which is our most precious resource. If those trips are long, if they're stressful, if they're unreliable, if they're expensive, the educational experience suffers, even if the academics are strong. And most students today aren't living the brochure version of college, strolling from the dorm to class with infinite free time. They're commuting from across the region, often balancing work, caregiving, and family responsibilities. If transportation is unaffordable, unstable, access to education gets narrower. So today, we've got a pretty straightforward purpose. We'd like to surface what's getting in the way when it comes to getting to and around campus affordably. We want to highlight partnerships that are working between transit agencies, universities, and mobility providers, because we don't solve these challenges alone. And then we want to identify concrete opportunities, fare programs, service design, policy shifts that make access easier and more fair. So I'll start with some questions that I'll direct to our panelists, but this is hopefully going to be a conversation. We'll hear from our panelists. We'd like to hear them add, push back, build on each other's points, go for it. This is all about cross-sector problem solving. So with that, I would love to start off by asking our panelists to introduce themselves. I'd like them to say, of course, their name, their role, and the organization that they are affiliated with. But also, let's get the conversation going. Share one key insight about how their work intersects with university life and transportation. So with that, let's start with Dr. Jody Bailey Acevillo from Temple.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Jody Bailey. I have the pleasure of serving as the Vice President for Student Affairs at Temple. I have also had the pleasure of working on different initiatives with some of the others on this panel, and I'm looking forward to it. My work centers around student success and wraparound services for our students. And so for me, Temple is a predominantly commuter university. We have about 30,000 students and only 5 live on our campus. We have about another 12,000 that live within the greater Philadelphia area, including within 1 mile of campus. And so transportation in a variety of forms matters a great deal to us so that our students can get to and from our classes. And one special side note that I do have for us that we're privileged to also have is that the Hope Center is housed on Temple's campus and has actually been doing work regarding transportation and transportation studies. And so I think that some of the information that I have worked on with them will also add some really good color commentary to the day today. So thank you for having me.
Great, thank you. Let's stay on the university side and ask Joe Russo to introduce himself.
Good afternoon, everyone. Joe Russo with Penn. I am the Senior Director of Business Services. So my portfolio includes the Transportation Demand Management Unit. So for us, what that looks like is the Penn Transit Integrated University System. That's our on-demand service, our bus system. I also supervise the parking operation on campus as well as our community benefit program, which includes the collaboration that we have with SEPTA and the other regional transit agencies. My portfolio also includes mail services. So I often say how, but that's an interesting pairing of services. But I'm part of the business services unit. And so rolling up to our umbrella also includes the bookstore, the residential and hospitality services, the dining operation, and other essential campus services. My unit does supervise the Penn Transit integrated transit system, and so we are very focused on moving our students around campus using our system. Unlike Temple, we are primarily a residential campus, and so we have very few commuter students that are truly commuting from the home, from mom and dad's home, right? We have a 2-year residency requirement, and so our students are on campus, living in campus housing for their first 4 semesters, and we often find that there's several thousand students who are living on campus in their third and fourth year as well.
Wonderful. Thank you. And I should have said that Joe has no relation. There's no nepotism here with our fellow Russos. All right, let's move it over to our transit agency representatives. Let's start with Dana.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much, Ryan. My name is Dana Koffold. I am a sales specialist here at SEPTA, and specifically, I work with our college and university programs. So our semester pass program, which is the program that both Temple and Penn participate. So very happy to be on the call with our partners, and also our UPass program, which is the newer of our programs. Um, I have been at SEPTA I just had my 3-year anniversary, and this is my first job out, well, like career job out of college. But I'm very happy to be able to work with college students and, these help them get access to transit through these programs that we run. It's such a rewarding experience. So I'm really excited to share some of our insights from running this program with you all.
Thanks, Dana. And Gabby?
Hi, everybody. I'm Gabby. I'm a senior sales development specialist at SEPTA. I work mainly on the Key Advantage program for employers, but there's lots of overlap with Dana and I's role. And for me, I am actually currently a student at Temple University. I'm an OWL, getting my master's in public policy. So as a student commuting in and out of Philadelphia for work, and of course for classes, reliable transportation is really important to me and access to it as well.
Great. Thank you. And then we have the third leg of our stool here, the private sector, representing Jawnt, Will.
Thank you, Joe. Very excited. Thanks, Joe, for the chat and Ryan for introducing us. I'm getting all my Russos confused, but it's nice to see our partners here. We are a transportation technology provider, and we provide benefits, concession services, eligibility determination, really focused on increasing transportation access for organizations. We work very closely with SEPTA here and many of the universities to boost ridership. So that means for SEPTA, helping scale the Key Advantage program for employers, helping scale the UPass program for universities, and then integrating with student rosters, employer census to make sure that these things are kept up to date. People getting the passes need to get the passes, and those who leave the university, et cetera, no longer do. It's been wonderful getting to work here in Philly. We are based here, and there's some really unique stuff that we'll get to talk about throughout this session on the work that's being done, both by SEPTA, our universities, our TDM programs, and everything else. And yeah, thanks for having us.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for those introductions. Let's get into the conversation. So, in my introduction, I tried to, emphasize that transportation, it's not a side issue. It's really a main issue for students. So I would love panelists to talk about some of the biggest transportation challenges that they see their students currently facing at, in particular, urban serving universities. And I hate to bring this up to our SEPTA folks, but I know there's some financial difficulties that are happening in the city, and we know that the impact on students, if fares have to go up, if service has to be cut, are significant, but we should talk about those. So who wants to start?
I'd be happy to start if you would like.
Yeah.
So I think a little bit of facts and background might be helpful in terms of creating a stage for us. The Hope Institute, the Hope Center had just recently done a study regarding transportation, and the national picture is that 59% of students face at least one basic needs insecurity, and at 1 in 8 report missing class due to transportation problems. And many of these campuses that the Hope Center had looked at were saying that 50% of the community college main campuses have a transit stop within walking distance of trains. The biggest things that we experience at Temple is, and we've already talked a little bit about this, is affordability and fare volatility. So even if the price of something goes up even minimally, it is becoming unaffordable or unattainable for some of our students. We also have, and first and last, mile gaps and mismatches where classes, work, and caregiving are often extended past the normal commuting hours of what might be happening for mass transportation. And so this cascades into absences or missed meetings or withdrawals. And 12% of missed classes at a national level are due to transportation problems. There is an unevenness of access by campus. So just making sure that we're aware that being an urban institution does not equal easy access. I worked in the New York metropolitan area, and if you were a student on the main portion of Manhattan, it was a lot easier than getting to and from classes in Manhattan than if you were living in a borough, right? Because there's a lot more work that goes into a lot more lines, a lot more scenarios where a student might not be able to get in based off of emergencies that were happening. I think that we can be honest in Philadelphia and say that safety and reliability after dark is also a concern for students. And so demands spike. However, students in particular are not always coming home at the same hours that some of our counterparts on this call might be. And so thinking about safe and predictable late night options for our students, we have a variety of grads and undergrads who have to use a layered approach to transportation to get to where they are, whether it is through university services or through the Greater Philadelphia services. Those are just some of the transportation challenges, both at a national and a more local Philadelphia level that we've experienced.
I would echo much of what Jody said, at Penn, we see that our students, they're coming to campus, they're coming to live here from wherever, and they're oftentimes very reliant or know the Uber and Lyft experience, right? And what's not to like about Uber and Lyft? It's quick, it's convenient, it's affordable, it's literally door to door. But our on-campus transit systems and even the regional and city transit systems are not designed to replicate those services. So a challenge for us has certainly been how to communicate that we are not designed to replicate those services and educate them on how to utilize the various services that the university offers, that SEPTA offers, that the other regional transit providers offer. And so there's often a learning curve for our students when they first come, when they first get here and first come to Philadelphia. And it's important to recognize that they are, and they're telling us this too, right? There's some uncertainty about reliability of mass transit, about how to plan routes, about safety, about cleanliness, and so there's a perception too, or a misconception, you may say, to help try to educate our students about what their various options are. And I also want to echo something Jody said. We are finding that our students are interested in multimodal transportation options, right? And so they might want to take public transit one day, they might want to drive one day, they might want to walk one day, depending on what their schedule looks like or what their extracurricular activities are. And urban institutions are probably, unlike our rural colleagues, we don't allow parking for our undergraduate students, right? And a lot of campuses are like that. And so the student that is coming from far away, and they're not. We encourage them. In fact, we discourage them from bringing their cars to campus. And so, like there's a real fact there too that not only we need to educate them on how to utilize the mass transit system, but we're almost forcing them to because we're telling them don't bring your cars.
Yeah, that's the point about students being multimodal and making different choices different days is a big one, and the work that our NACTO member agencies and running city transportation systems are trying to provide those choices for people. As we sort of transition it over to SEPTA, just as a little bit of a prompt, I would love to, one of the things we've seen in kind of the post-pandemic era was a lot of the transit systems were about kind of bringing that traditional white collar commuter to a downtown with that peak of service. And I think what we heard from Jody is that like a student is traveling in the middle of the day or traveling in the evening, and if the service is concentrated for a commuter, it's almost less useful for the student population. But what we've seen post-pandemic is like travel is now more spread out and maybe somewhat easier, or easier to focus on and to serve just general urban traffic rather than just sort of office 9 to 5 traffic. So that's maybe a positive that's have happened later as an opportunity. But maybe our panelists from SEPTA want to talk a little bit about serving students with their transportation system.
Yeah, I can jump in here, and Dana, you can answer too. Something that I've as a rider myself, I feel those frustrations too, where I'm at the bus stop and the bus isn't coming. And in that moment, I'm texting my friends, like, what is going on, on the SEPTA side. And now more than ever, it's such a layered and complicated issue, and I'm definitely not the perfect point of contact. We manage our commuter benefits platforms and programs, which are a really important service. And we're so happy that they're doing well and having these like very deep partnerships in Philadelphia. But it's so complicated and complex. And I think in the last year, with all the financial crisis that's been highlighted, we've seen such a strong turnout from our partners, especially, coming to Harrisburg on the employer side, on the university side, just showing how important public transportation is to students, employees, citizens moving around. Um, and it's really hard to highlight all the really great things that SEPTA is doing, like our trolley modernization project, all the real-time data that we're starting to perfect a little bit better, the relationships that we have with Jawnt that are helping employees and students get better access to transit programs. So I know the news recently is taking away from that. And it's not like the perfect answer, but we are striving to make transit more accessible. And I'd love to have or connect Jody and Joe to our planning team to help with, transit options and service or better service, like replies to your students' needs for sure.
Yeah, I'll jump in specifically to talk about like reliability and the real-time stuff. So the SEPTA app, not that long ago, we actually went through like a major overhaul with the app, and we now offer in-app trip planning. We also have really improved the amount of real-time data that's available now. So customers are able to get more like consistent updates about, hey, if my bus is late, where is it right now? How long is it going to take for it to get here? So that's been a really, really big improvement in terms of those concerns. I know that you had briefly mentioned at the beginning of this service cuts. Any cuts were actually reversed. So no service cuts have been made, or they were made, but they were, ended, reversed. And also, we do, in terms of the schedule, we do revisit the schedule multiple times a year, like 3 to 5 times a year, to better serve all of our users. So that's something that gets adjusted. Um, and to also speak on the safety side of things, also as part of our app, we now integrated a safety and cleanliness reporting feature where customers can discreetly just use the app to report any concerns. They can send a picture. They don't have to make a call. All they have to do is log into the app and let us know the location of the concern, and they're able to make those reports. But overall, in general, I say I get a lot of questions at events about safety because I go out to a lot of events at universities, and there are a lot of students who aren't familiar with public transit, maybe have like a misconception about it. And I always just say, public transit is very similar to walking around the street. If it's after dark, it's probably a good idea to be with someone else. But just in general, be smart, keep your wits about you, and definitely take advantage of resources. We have a transit police force here at SEPTA, and we've really been working recently on increasing patrols. We've seen some really historic downturns in crime on the system recently, everything from fare evasion. We're issuing more citations to like measurable big dips in more serious crime. So we definitely take safety very seriously. And I know that that's a concern for a lot of students. So I'm always glad that I have good statistics and good resources to report back to them.
Yeah, and then
Wonderful.
maybe I could just jump in and try and
Yeah,
connect
please.
the universities and the SEPTA side. But on what Jody and Joe were saying, we spend a lot of time thinking about benefit education and getting in front of students, faculty, staff at day one. And that's the best way to engender good transportation habits. If they get used to driving and parking or get used to Ubering, that's a really hard habit to break. So the more we can do upfront before they get on campus to educate them about nearby transit, whether it's SEPTA or Indigo Bike Share, Patco, Amtrak, whatever. That's something we spend a lot of time working on. And hopefully that we can just kind of educate them on what's great. And hopefully they start as students and they end as Philadelphia residents and they're much more comfortable with SEPTA over time. And then I don't work for SEPTA, so I always feel like I can gush about the work that they're doing. But what one of the stories that I love they do, this isn't a student story, but because they're now working with these large entities like universities and health systems, I can say it feels like they're much more receptive to feedback. I don't know if that's true or if they always have been, but I know that like there's one example where one of the large health systems here conducted a survey and said, "Hey, SEPTA, here's something that's going on with our train schedules. Like, is there anything that we could do to be more amenable to our 7 to 7 shifts?" And this kind of gets to Jody's point where the initial schedules were much more 9 to 5, and a lot of the nurses and staff were working 7 a.m., 7 p.m. And SEPTA took that feedback and really did implement schedule changes based on that sort of thing. So I think the pandemic and the ridership challenges, the revenue challenges has forced SEPTA and the city of Philadelphia to become more amenable to these different behavioral situations that we're seeing. So on our end, at least, it feels like the universities and institutions are being heard and feel a lot of support from SEPTA on that front as well.
Great. Thanks for sharing that, Will. And sort of the next sort of bucket that we'll sort of explore is partnerships. And I want to kind of go right back to you, Will, because I'm not sure you've been saying we. Everyone I think here knows who Temple and UPenn are, and they know what SEPTA are. But you're from Jawnt, one of these new words in the tech world without a lot of vowels. So let's talk about partnership and like what Jawnt does and how it's working with the universities and SEPTA to on this topic of student transportation. I think there's a lot of people just might be coming in totally cold on this.
Yes, happy to do that. Just for the name, Jawn, Jawn, is a uniquely Philly word. So it's a little nod to our hometown here and a short trip for a jaunt. But so it wasn't intentionally vowel-less, but it was kind of a fun ad hominem. But we are a commuter benefits company. So we work with large employers like universities and health systems, tech companies. We're with the city of Philadelphia. And so on one end, they're integrating into HR and payroll, and the other end, we're working with the transit agencies to do that sort of thing. But I think we want to step beyond just the traditional commuter benefits platform and think about any ways in which we can get transportation to organizations and to members of organizations. So today, working with the universities, but we're also working with students. So how do we integrate with the student census to make sure that eligibilities are kept up to date? If someone's there one semester or quarterly or taking a night class, how do we make sure they only get the services that they're eligible for? And then we also administer low income programs. So in the city of Philadelphia, there's tens of thousands of people who are at or below the federal poverty level who get access to free SEPTA, and we're the administrative platform for serving that. And so what we want to do is be good partners to our transit agencies by being good partners to our employers and those other organizations. So hopefully by working with SEPTA, we can help them boost ridership, and hopefully by working with our university partners, we can help their students get to work or get to school safely, reliably. We can help their faculty and staff get to work as well. And I think, traditionally this has been a world where kind of all of the players don't quite get along and they kind of talk past each other. And so we've been very intentionally trying to work closely with the transit agencies and closely with the employers to make this a better experience.
Great, thank you. So yeah, so maybe our university partners can talk about this evolution of partnership between themselves and transit agencies and the lines of communication and how they collaborate maybe to try to address the student transportation needs.
I'll start this time. Sure. At Penn, we were intentional these past few years to increase the collaboration with our transit agencies partners at various student touch points, such as orientation events over the summer, beginning really when they first get here and before, and at various campus tabling events. It provides our students with an opportunity to see the transit agencies firsthand and to see that they interact with them directly, not to us, to then the SEPTA person or the New Jersey Transit person or something like that. We have a SEPTA kiosk here on campus. It's in our bookstore. It's actually right near where our parking and commuter service office is. We've also most recently integrated the transit information directly into our onboarding process that occurs really starting at the very beginning of the summer, much prior to when the students are coming here. And so we're giving them the resources that they need. We're giving them information. We're giving them the opportunity to register for the SEPTA semester pass right when they're in the same portal, registering for their dining plan and registering, interacting with the portal for other campus related deadlines. And so these touch points were intentional to try and give our students more insight into what regional transit and city transit looks like. And then the last piece I'll mention, this past year, we we were intentional about increasing the communication. One, because you can't talk about SEPTA without knowing that the news headlines were, hey, there might be service cuts coming, hey, there might be fare increases coming, and so we did see an uptick in the semester passes, and we attribute that to the increased communication that we had really starting this past May with the incoming students coming in.
And I will say that Gabrielle and I have been on, we were on a call not so long ago together. I feel like it's about 6 months ago, and we were having these same conversations. What I want to say is that SEPTA does a really excellent job at trying to provide discounts for our students. And so we are able to partner with SEPTA to, very similarly to Penn, have it built into our system so that they're able to apply for their SEPTA benefits very quickly. SEPTA has also been working with colleges and universities regarding transportation passes, and so students being able to any new ridership would be able to have deeply discounted passes for transportation. I would say that for us, one of the things that I want to make sure that I highlight is that Temple is an incredibly complicated organization inside of an incredibly complicated city. And so we have our own hospitals, we have our own um, residence halls in a variety of spaces. We have a lot of students and faculty and staff who commute in and out. And so there is not going to be a perfect solution for anybody getting in and out, because you also have emergencies that no one can predict, whether it is weather or it is structural. We are navigating that all of the time. SEPTA is also navigating the political arena that is being a public entity, and really having to respond in general. And so what I have found is that the communication is always a willing partner. And for me, that is probably one of the biggest pieces that matters, because I oversee wraparound services for student success. And so what I always tell people is getting up Broad Street in itself is a very complicated issue in Philadelphia. And so if you can't get up Broad, you can't get into classes, and then you can't get home. And so how do we make sure that we're trying as much as possible to partner? And like Will said, hard conversations do not have to be adversarial conversations. We just are each advocating from different perspectives to allow for all of the voices to be at the table. And I think that that's the hard work that Jawnt does. And I think that it can definitely be felt on the campuses.
That's super great. And as we sort of transition back to the transit agency, just make that note that I do think our passes are such a great opportunity. Transit agencies love kind of the regular bulk purchase of a pass, as opposed to that little drip of paying and every time someone hops the bus. And the nice thing is the cost can be spread to a whole population, when that whole population might not necessarily use the service, but the people who need it, it's something that's there. It's not that marginal cost at the time of use. So it's real opportunities there with these sort of captive populations. But anyway, SEPTA, why don't you respond to that issue of kind of collaborating together?
Yeah, definitely. So the program, what you're describing, Ryan, sounds sort of like our UPass program, which is our newest program, and that's a universal program that was created right around the time that I came into SEPTA. And so we've had a lot of collaboration with local institutions in developing that program. I will get to the program that Penn and Temple are part of as well, because we definitely have had some great success with that program, especially recently. But since you brought up that model, that universal option for students has been really helpful for our partners in the UPass program, because it does, encourage students who might not otherwise be riding to ride transit. And so that's been sort of a game changer. We'd never had a pass like that before, really. So it's a new facet of the university transit experience that we're very happy to offer. And then on the other hand, we also have our semester pass program, which has existed in like different iterations for quite a long time. And Penn and Temple have been with us for a very long time, which is awesome. I definitely agree with what Joe said about the semester pass having an uptick. We noted a really big increase in pass purchases this year. So Temple for the fall semester had over 1,000 semester passes loaded, which is really crazy. And Penn had over 200. Um, I marked down somewhere where how much so that's a 75% increase from the spring. So definitely students, I think that the increased awareness has made a real big difference to students. If they know where they can get it, then they want it, which is it's been really rewarding to see that program grow and know that students who need that program can now have access to it. And we make sure to also help on with that outreach side of things. It's not just relying on Temple and Penn to spread the word. We do a lot of events on campuses, especially around the start of school. I was very, very busy for most of September and a little bit of August and stuff. But it's really fun to meet with the students, to answer their questions, to tell them all the resources that are available to them. Um, it's just a really, really great experience to be able to tell them that we have these programs that are designed to help them. And working with, Penn and Temple to make sure that the students that need the pass have access, like I said, has definitely made the process a lot smoother.
I'll just add in here too. Dana does a fantastic job with partnerships, and I see her going above and beyond her job role to move things along, like refunds, troubleshooting key cards, working with our call center to make things more seamless for our partners. So, kudos to Dana for that as well. Mm.
And I also just from our side as the administrator of some of these programs that Dana is talking about on the UPass side, it's fascinating to see the participation rates when it's kind of like your default opted in versus you have to really select. And so, we'll see 60, 70, 80% participation from students in the UPass program when it is something that is globally available to them. And so you can imagine, just Ryan, as you're saying, the committed revenue for SEPTA is really, really meaningful. The opportunity for the students is really impactful. How they use it really changes when it's something that's kind of an all-you-can-eat pass. And amazing to see with that. And I think you touched on it earlier on the funding situation in Philly and Pennsylvania more broadly, but this creates this really virtuous cycle where SEPTA gets funding, the private sector chips in, it helps public sector involvement because they see the involvement from the private sector. And it's been this amazing experience just seeing how all those things come together. And the UPass program is like a great example of the Key Advantage program is too, but I think that's a uniquely Philly thing that other cities could take note of.
Yeah, and I think, for the audience and really be thinking, I've been in cities, maybe the less urban campuses will often have their own campus shuttles and campus bus systems, and urban universities. So those universities that aren't really have to think hard about transportation and put in a lot of resources. And then there's like this other extreme of, hey, we're in a city, we don't have to think about it, and we just sort of like you leave your students on your own without solutions, and sort of they'll figure it out. And I think like this model that we're seeing built of partnership and collaboration is shows that there's this better way. I have other questions, but there's a question in the chat. We'll make sure we'll get to all of them that I want to sort of that I think is relevant right now. It's the second one we got, and I'm going to read this. As an urban university, is transportation a part of recruitment and orientation materials? We heard a little bit about that from Joe, but maybe we can build on that. If so, how are all the partners represented here included in those efforts?
So I can tell you that in Philadelphia, there's a couple different partnerships that we have. So the answer is yes. In our orientations, we try to make travel fun, and so we do things like how many places can you get into the city and around the city on one swipe of the SEPTA pass, and so we bring them to a variety of different spaces. We'll also do tours of different areas of Philadelphia, and utilize SEPTA so that they can understand how to either transfer train lines or get there in a different way. One of the things that I want to highlight in Philadelphia that's a little bit different than other cities is that we also have a coalition of colleges and universities and workforce development, and it's called Campus Philly. And Campus Philly focuses on orientation to Philadelphia and to workforce development, and they sit in the middle. And they help do educational programs. SEPTA is a large sponsor for Campus Philly programs, but they also participate in orientation of what does it mean to be in and of the greater Philadelphia area. For us, with SEPTA in general, we try to focus on, like Dana was saying, safety. It's not just about SEPTA, but as a human, when you are walking in an urban area at 2 a.m., is this the smartest decision that you are making for yourself? Right? As a woman who is perhaps in a space where my spidey senses tingle, is this the right space to be in? So we do a lot of that work with SEPTA. They partner very much. Temple has its own police department, and so we do a lot with the Transit Police Department and the Philadelphia Police Department and the Temple Police Department because we have some of you might experience it too. We have unique youth gatherings that also hover around these SEPTA sites because they know how to get in and of the city based off of mass transportation. And so people like to hang out near Temple's campus. And so there's a lot of conversations that we have, but a lot of education about what does it mean to be a human being in an urban institution and how do you manage yourself? And transportation is part of that. So we try to make it fun so that um, um, they have the courage to do it on their own once we release them from the first week of orientation.
I agree with everything there. I can add a few things at Penn. Our orientation leaders and our resident assistant staff are very much part of our orientation and move-in process, and so we will sit with them and provide information to them for them to help disseminate information out to our students during the orientation process. You'll also see Penn branded buses as part of the orientation experience, getting folks down to South Philly to go shopping during the orientation trip. We even utilize the branded Penn buses for street blocking during move-in and commencement. And so um, our system, our transit system is utilized for much more than people moving. Um, is it part of the actual recruitment? That's a really good question. I don't know the answer to that, aside from probably stock photos that you probably find on the website or anything. But I mentioned that because it's important for us to show incoming and prospective students that one, we have an integrated transit system, but two, you're coming to Philadelphia, you're coming to downtown Philadelphia. You will see a Penn branded bus, you'll see a SEPTA bus, you'll see a Drexel bus, you'll see a Lucy bus, etc. Um, and then even during our campus visits as well, we're working with our partners in admissions and providing parking for them in dedicated locations and trying to utilize our parking facilities to help with the recruitment process as well.
I would say in the recruitment process for us, probably not, but not because we hail most of our students hail from Pennsylvania and the greater
Mm.
Philadelphia area, and so it's a little bit different than Penn, right? So SEPTA, much like Temple, the name is synonymous with with large masses, and so I think that they know that already. And our focus is, if I'm being fair, our focus is really having our students who are not from Philadelphia understand that there is no delay in the crosswalk in Philadelphia versus New York City. So when you step off on the cross, you better watch it. So we're trying to really just in general get them across Broad Street back and forth.
Ooh, we're getting into street design things, which are the some of NACTO's expertise. When no delay, you mean like you don't get a head start as a pedestrian, that you might get cut by the turning vehicle?
It is every person for themselves when you are crossing. In New York, there is like about a 3 to 4 second delay before the
Right.
light change. There
Yep.
is no delay in Philadelphia. Once it's
Got it.
green, it's go. So they roll. They're rolling stoppers when they know that light's going to change.
I love it. We're
I'm
really Go
Oh,
ahead,
sorry.
Dana.
I was just gonna say I'm one of the people who, if somebody's tries it's trying really aggressively to turn while I'm walking, I slow down just a little bit. My guilty pleasure.
Well, we're getting multimodal because we've been talking transit and now we're talking walking. And as I mentioned, urban life and university life and being a young person is a multimodal experience. Sometimes you might take that late night group ride hail or taxi with friends, and other times you're on the bus, other times you're walking. There's also there's biking, right? And maybe this question I won't focus it on biking, but like we do want to be like optimistic, like forward looking, like what innovations or policy shifts would you like to see universities, cities, transit agencies considering to better support, student transportation needs? And like my vote would be like Indigo in Philadelphia, that every matriculating student gets a pass for that as well. So they have that option. So anyway, who wants to be in fun, perfect world utopia mode first?
I'm happy to vamp on that for a little bit. I think this would be kind of
Yes, the
fun,
tech
unless,
people. Let the tech people have you're always
yeah.
imagining the better world.
No, and I think we're seeing like bits and pieces of this along the way, right? I know SEPTA, talking with Dana and Gabby over time, they looked at Pittsburgh and PRT and their model with University of Pittsburgh for UPass, where on day one of being a Pitt student, you get your ID, it works on the bus. You also get a bike share membership. And that's like sort of de facto how your experience, and I think Dana is a proud Pitt alum, actually, now that I say this out loud. That's how you like your experience with the city and with PRT and Pogo, the bike share system begins. And hopefully that continues after graduation. And in Philly, we're seeing that with the UPass program. We also are the corporate administrator for the Indigo bike share program here. And so we get to offer discounted passes to the employers and to students through that today. And I know, like I can talk about Penn a little bit, but they have a very vocal biking community. And the biking community wants, I think every university probably has this, especially grad students and young faculty seems to be the typical users of this. But they wanted to feel some greater support, and Penn was generously able to offer an Indigo bike share membership to their employees. And that's something that could continue with the students and everything else. And so I think for us, it's getting those critical mobilities that help with some of the small jumps in Philly, whether it's SEPTA, Indigo. We also work with PATCO and the other ones. And I think that would be an amazing thing from your start of your Philly experience, having access to those. And then lastly, we talked a lot about sort of maybe safety, security on different agencies and here in Philly. And one of the services that we also offer is called Guaranteed Ride Home. So if you are a student, an employee, and you typically take public transit, but it is a weird hour of the night, or you feel unsafe, or you have to get home because your kid did something went wrong, uh, employers or universities can offer, a stipend towards Uber, Lyft. So it's not your default, but it's something that's there in case of an emergency. And so I think having access to those sort of more basic services like SEPTA and Indigo for day to day, and then having that sort of fallback of Uber and Lyft when you really need to get home urgently would be like my ideal dream for both students and faculty, staff, universities.
This question kind of ties into one from earlier too, Ryan, about collaboration and partnerships, right? So we utilize Jawnt services for our employee community benefit program, and because we are and because Jawnt partners with Indigo, they were able to extend a benefit to our employees, and so our employees do get, as Will alluded to, a nice discount off an annual membership for Indigo, and so that was a nice little perk that we were able to offer just because we're already have a partnership with John, and as they expand, the perks increase. I'd also say, what from a policy shift or how can universities and cities better partner? If we're able to explore the flexibility of partnerships between universities and cities and transit authorities, because each relationship, each program may require a unique and different approach. There may not be a one size fits all program that fits for every institution, right? Um, I also want to mention the need, and I'd emphasize that word, the need for sustainable transit infrastructure, which of course includes EV charging and support for active transportation options, not just bike share and campus cycling programs, but for EVs as well. As we're kind of hand-strapped right now because we can't expand our EV buses because of the infrastructure and the cost of the infrastructure. But our students want that, right? They're very sustainable minded. We got some requests just today about what are we doing to help support the sustainability, climate control, and all that good stuff. And so how we're able to expand our own EV footprint, reduce our carbon footprint, does require partnership and innovation with the local, city, and sometimes even the federal government.
I think that Will and Joe hit on most things. What I will say is that there are other cities who are piloting some programs like a mobility wallet so that you can pull together technology and the different things that you are utilizing for transportation into one space. I would say for Temple, because a lot of our students are Pell eligible and fall within particular financial brackets, that really thinking about what does transportation mean for like equality and access. Um, that's always something that we're trying to think about. How is it equitable for all of our students to be able to take one service versus another? One of the things that we have been doing that I think is innovative that might be thoughtful, and Ryan, I'd love to pick your brain on the side about this, is that we partner with the city of Philadelphia. So abandoned bikes that are found throughout the city, they actually give them to us, and we have a bike repair shop and we repair them and then we give them back out to our students, and they are now going to be part of our essential needs hub that we're doing. And so we're trying to think about what does transportation look like through all different forms and student success, and really thinking about what does your sustainability efforts do and process with that as well. So but I would echo everything that Joe and Will have said.
Dana, Gabby, we really, I know the tough times that you're in, but perfect world. Let's go. Let's get creative. Get the juices going.
I mean, I would settle for a state budget at this point. A nice delivery from Santa of a t bunch of brand new rail cars. That would be lovely. Um, but in terms of, what I'd like to see, well, it's correct that I did attend the University of Pittsburgh, so I had access to an all-access transit pass for my whole university experience, which is really awesome. So my ideal, obviously it's my program, it would be to see the UPass program continue to expand, see more students aware of the semester pass and, willing to take a chance on it. Um, and just in general, continuing to recognize that college students can be such like, or rather public transit can be such an important key for college students in helping them break that sort of like campus bubble that can develop. Because, staying on campus is comfortable. It's where your friends are, it's where your classes are, it's where you are every day. But also, when you're in an urban university, there's so much of the city that you miss out on. And it can be hard if you don't have a car. It can be hard to drive in Philadelphia, even if you do. So just being able to see more students really recognize how important of a tool it can be to be, integrated with the city, even if it isn't through SEPTA, even if it's through biking or walking. But I definitely think that SEPTA can and should be a part of that conversation for students.
And I just have to say yes to everybody of what everyone has said. And I think like the essential like dream of mine is making SEPTA and public transit in general be the easy yes to get around, whether that's through like flexible payment options, flexible programs, accessibility, So many more dedicated bus lanes would be wonderful with rapid transit. I'd love that. So yeah, just again making SEPTA the way to go and way to get around Philly and making it easier for students for sure.
Fantastic. And just to, note to the audience that well, the group we don't have in this room is the city of Philadelphia, which does stripe the crosswalks and the bike lanes and run those traffic signals that don't give you any time. They are a member of NACTO. Those are the group, the the agencies that I represent as part of NACTO. And I would strongly encourage more partnership with those agencies that are doing that. They're often franchising or concessioning or permitting the shared micromobility, the bike share program, but also uh, doing that bus priority that could get that bus that a student community uses out of congestion and prioritized on its streets. So encourage you all to find your partners at the city, the municipal government that's doing that work. And also, I just want to highlight that the UPass program that we've heard about, I don't have a chat to share, but if you just Google SEPTA UPass, it's the first result. That website, a really fast, really great program and has a great website and Dana's information at the bottom of it. And we want to see those kinds of programs, spread around the country. So please check that out. With that, I think it's time for me to pass it back to our host over to Jimmy, who's got a few notes before we wrap things up.
Yes, I just wanted to thank you all for the conversation today. I know we got a couple of questions. I don't know if we got to all of them, but I want to encourage folks who are listening today or who might be watching the recording that they can always reach out to you all, of course. I assume that's okay. I assume folks can Google and do LinkedIn, but please know that you can also use USU as a link to the folks that are here today by emailing us at info@usucoalition.org. We'd be happy to pass along any questions or give you our perspectives as folks who are working with urban serving universities around the country. So I just wanted to say thank you all so much for being here today. I want to thank the groups, the agencies, the universities that are represented here today. Our USU member in Temple University. Thank you so much, Jody, for being here. Our USU Advisory Council member, Ryan, representing NACTO, as well as our other partners at SEPTA, University of Pennsylvania, and Jawnt. We know that our cities and our universities are a part of a large ecosystem and that this work could not get done without you. So I want to thank you all. And I look forward to seeing you around. And for those who will be at our APLU annual meeting starting on Sunday, looking forward to seeing you there. So thank you so much and have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, everyone.